Book of Mediums, Part 2, Chapter 19. Kardec is repetitive, uses repetition uh, in his writings, and it's partly the fault of himself continually asking the same question. Whether or not he's asking the same spirit or different spirits the same question to try to look for a uniformity of answers was his method, basically. So, role of the medium in spirit communications, influence of the personal spirit of the medium, so our own soul, our own spirit, our own psyche, our own prejudices, inert mediums, aptitude of mediums for things that they don't know, such as language, music, drawing, dissertation of a spirit on the role of mediums. Is a medium at a time of exercising their ability in a normal state? He is sometimes in a state of crisis, more or less, and this is what fatigues them and why they need rest. But often, they are not in a state normal than different than normal, especially in writing mediums. So we can see why Kardec really likes writing mediums and writing mediumship, because it takes more the state of the medium out of the equation as a factor interfering in the communications of the spirit or the scientific observation of communications with spirits. Can written or verbal communication come from the spirit of the medium themselves, so the spirit who is incarnated in a physical body of the medium? Yes, a spirit can communicate like that of any other. If it enjoys a certain freeness or liberty, then the person recovers more qualities of spirit. You can see this by visiting the soul of a living person who come visit you, even in dreams. You can channel, a medium can channel a living person as well, without you calling them as well. So you must know that some of the spirits that you pray or invoke, some of them are already incarnated upon the earth. So what they talk to you as spirits and not as men. So why would you suppose it cannot be the same as the medium? So this is also interesting too, because people say, like, how can you talk to a spirit if spirits are always reincarnating? And this is why. Uh, this confirms the opinion that all communications come from the spirit of the medium and not foreign spirits is also wrong, because it's not absolute. If you can channel your own spirit, then why can't you not channel other spirits, and vice versa? How can you know if you're channeling your own spirit or a foreign spirit? By the nature of the communications, the circumstance, and the language, and you will distinguish, more particularly if the medium is in a trance state of somnambulism or ecstasy, that the spirit of the medium may manifest itself because it's more free, but when the medium is in a normal state, it is more difficult. When we observe a medium, we can distinguish if something's coming from them or a spirit, and we can do the same thing to know if it's a waking bias or the medium's own spirit, basically. Does the spirit who communicate with a medium transmit his thoughts, or is a spirit incarnated in the medium an intermediary? It's saying that the spirit in the medium is always the interpreter. And this influences the communications with other spirits. Because if you're not like the other spirit, you may alter their answers or assimilate them to your own ideas and inclinations. But we do not influence the spirits, we are only a bad interpreter. It is the same when the advice of a wise man is transmitted by a blunderer, uneducated, or insincere person. Basically, like a bad game of telephone, basically. The spirit needs a portion of energy from the medium to animate. So, therefore, an intelligent spirit communication needs an intelligent intermediary to understand what the spirit is trying to put across. And this intermediary is the spirit of the medium. This is not applicable to physical mediums because the intelligent answers are from the spirit itself, and the spirit or intelligence of the medium has nothing to do with it. There's no intelligence given to the pencil or anything else. It's just, again, an intermediary, a physical intermediary. So the spirit of the medium is never entirely passive. It's only passive if we don't mingle our own ideas with the foreign spirit. But it's always an intermediate. It's always interacting some way. Our own spirit is always interacting with another spirit. Um, a intelligent man is not going to become a machine and just do a bunch of physical stuff. And an inert physical object like a pencil is not going to become smart, basically. When a man shakes a stick in anger, it's not the stick that is angry or the hand that is angry, but it is the thought, the intelligence, and the spirit of the person that is agitated, that is angry. It is but a question of words, but we want you to understand us that you're free to call a man a puppet. Spirits have but the language of thought. Spirit communication is usually mental, or like what we call psychic communication, even though it's an act of a spirit. So there's only one single language, which is psychic. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what language an intelligent spirit spoke in their lifetime. They're able to put across ideas to you no matter what. And so when people say, oh, the spirit came and didn't speak Spanish, so it's bullshit. Oh, the spirit came and didn't speak a mixture of like Yoruban or do this, so it's bullshit. It's not true. Spirits can speak any language they would damn well please. And it's more likely that why wouldn't they speak in a language that people can understand? There's no point in speaking a language to people that you don't understand unless there's somebody there that can translate for you. Okay? Otherwise, they're just going to speak in a language that people can understand if they're an intelligent or more superior spirit. But even a lower spirit, the language of the spirit world is mental thought, ideas. It's a mental psychic language. It's not words of French. It's a mental psychic language. Okay. Is it not a contradiction that mediums can write in languages unknown to them? Spirits only do it if there's a use for it. They prefer to use a language familiar to the medium because it's less obstacles to overcome. Such as, that's why it's rare for someone who's cannot read or write to be a writing medium, because there's a lot more to overcome. Uh, it's the same with those drawing mediums who can't draw anything or do any art. Um, but like all of us can draw a stick figure, I think. All of us can draw like a kindergarten looking house. So even if you're not the greatest artist, like most of us know how to draw something, I assume, right? Can a medium of little or slight intelligence transmit communications of an elevated order? Yes. In the same way, we can write a language unknown to them. But it's only because there's not a better instrument at hand. There has to be a reason for it, because it's there's more of an obstacle. Um, Someone who is looked on as simple could only be like looked on as simple because they have a physical problem, but their spirit could be very, very advanced. So you can't really look at a person um, as being like, I guess, mentally retarded, as not being a super intelligent person or have a very advanced moral spirit, for example. Excuse my words of the R word. I'm just saying. Used to be actually scientific designation. Hmm, hmm, hmm. And they've seen this happen many times. Why do some mediums write in verse even though they don't know poetry? Poetry is a language. Um, spirits use what they know about what's been given to them, and mediums can do things they don't normally have, and with the use of another spirit. Same can be done with drawing and music. Um, but spirits usually use a medium, again, that offers them the greatest use or the greatest ease. Does the expression of poetry, drawing, or music depend solely on the ability of a medium or the spirit? Sometimes the medium, sometimes if the spirit can do it. More superior spirits have more ability or more aptitudes, and inferior spirits have more limited abilities or more limited knowledge to do this, to do multiple things, basically. Why does the man who has an extraordinary talent in one existence not have it in the next incarnation? It is not always so. Um, and also, maybe an ability sleeps for a certain time to leave another ability more free to develop. It's always going to be a latent seed, which there's at least some traces of, or a vague intuition that you have something. Aptitude of mediums for things they don't know about: language, music, drawing, etc. The foreign spirit doubtless understands all languages, as languages are only the expression of thought, and spirits understand by thought. It's kind of like a movie. You can still watch a movie with subtitles. You can still watch a silent film, right? And you're still getting pictures. You're still getting communication. Communication is not necessarily French and English. There's nonverbal communication. Someone's got a frown on their face. They don't have to say they're angry. Okay? A medium who knows only French might give an answer in English if it pleases the spirit. But spirits often find the human language too slow because thoughts are more rapid. So, this is why they do not always do so. And this is why a novice medium will write with much effort and slowly in their own language, will usually obtain brief and undeveloped language answers even in their own language. And that's why it's recommended that you only ask simple questions at first. For more advanced subjects or lengthy answers, it requires a more developed medium who does not have a mechanical difficulty to the spirit. A good workman does not like to use poor implements. Spirits don't need to do feats necessarily to convince us. They do it on their own terms when they want to give proof. So they don't just need to come and speak these languages to convince us of nothing. It's saying, did Jesus perform miracles demanded of him by the scribes? No. What men did he use to revolutionize the world? If you desire to be convinced, you have other means than tricks. It's not by the scholar should impose his will upon the teacher. The uncultured man, as a medium, the peasant, might say the most beautiful things, express the most elevated and philosophical thoughts, but it is known by the spirit is using thought, and thought is all. All is mind, Hermetic principle, right? Sometimes it's useful to preserve something which is not correct as like a calling card of a spirit. For example, there's a spirit who constantly writes a word without an S when he comes to speak to his grandson, because in his life he wrote it that way. And through his grandson, who served as a medium, knew perfectly well how to write the name with an S, but this person was always known as Jewel, and so he knew that he was speaking with this exact spirit, Jules, because he would always write his name Jewel, and he always did that in life. So it was a method of discernment for him. He's not going to say, you're wrong, your name's spelled Jules, because Jewel always spelt his Jules name Jewel. We properly communicate solely by radiating our thought, and that's why our thoughts are really important. That's why when we pray and it comes from the heart, and we're beaming out our Care Bear stare of thoughts, spontaneous and from the heart is more important than just reading a prayer like this, blah blah blah, because it has no, it's not generating from just your own thoughts, and it doesn't have the energy behind it, and it doesn't have a desire. There's no desire of communication behind of it. You must simply direct your thought towards the spirits, and thus they want to use mediums who have more of a control over their thoughts, and who's much more intellectually developed, because it's much easier than with a medium whose intelligence is limited and has limited knowledge themselves. Because it's like rose tinted glasses. That's a saying. You look at the world through rose tinted glasses means you always see things like a hippie, like super positive. Um, that as mediums, we're the interpreter, so we're like the lens, looking through an object, that the lens of that the or the filter that the communication comes through. Same as the person receiving the message. Um, you're always interpreting these communications, and you're your understanding of that is going to be affected by your own intelligence, your own ability, where you're at in your life, if you're ready to hear that message, etc. If you believe that in the information, sometimes you're given information, you don't want to believe it, you think it could possibly come true, and then when it then comes true, you're like, okay, they were right, I didn't want to believe it, but I knew it would probably happen. um the medium's intelligent is going to produce more intelligent communication. Um, Depends what instrument we have on hand. If you have a piano or if you have a kazoo, the quality of sound, the quality of the communication. So you want to seek out mediums, because if all you have at your disposal is a two-penny whistle, it's going to be difficult for us. Our work becomes longer, more tedious, complicated, incomplete. Going word by word or letter by letter is annoying and fatiguing. It's not prompt, it's not timely to act on things. We need good spirits because our perispirit acting on the perispirit of them who are mediums with is not just a pen holder. It's much more laborious to work with a medium who's just knocks on the wall. The spirits just knock on the wall. There's an affinity between the medium and then again the type of spirit that's coming. And so you're not going to even get as good as answers, basically. Certainly we could talk mathematics to a medium who knows nothing about math. But again, the spirit of the medium might know about math in a latent state and not while incarnated in this incarnation. Because we've incarnated many times, like in our past life, we could have been an astronomist or a poet. We could have been a doctor. We could have spoke different languages, and that's all registered in like sort of like what we want to say, like the Akashic records of our soul. Or we can go there and go look at it, which is something completely else in mediumship, right? It's not a physical library or location, or even like energetic wise necessarily, as a exterior place to go to. It kind of like comes to us or from us or through us. And we don't physically or energetically necessarily have to go anywhere. And that's why you don't need to focus and strain and concentrate on something happening. We have to let these things flow and let these things happen and come to us. You're not searching or reaching out for things. Again, it's more of a receptivity that you need to have. And that's me adding on to this. This is not what I'm reading. Language can be very limiting too. Like what certain words mean can change. There's contextual meaning, there's cultural meanings. There's not words in certain languages to express certain ideas that we do have words in other languages for. I'll say that some more original languages, not English, because English is very recent medieval. I'll also say not Hebrew, because Hebrew is actually also very modern language. In Jesus's time, he spoke a form of uh, Arabic or Aramaic, actually. So I will say that more original languages have, like even Latin languages, have some of more the original cultural meaning still attached to, like almost like a picture or a hieroglyph attached to those sounds and the formation of letters as well. If you really want to get into, they call some of these people to look into these things like holy namers and stuff like this. But there's a lot more original spiritual meaning to old languages. Let's just say that, okay? So English is very limiting, actually. Um, so thank God we have these thoughts or pictures. Do do. Uh, if it's a language unknown to the medium, most likely it's going to be not words but letters written down. Um, as a spirit has to dictate letter by letter exactly as you would have to do to someone who speaks a foreign language, who then needs to like look up those words or wants to know how to spell something or is not even like familiar with that. For example, like I work as a chef right now, so I work with a lot of foreign people, and some of them have no idea of certain foods that we have or how to spell certain things like quinoa. I have to spell it out to them like Quinoa, and they don't know how to say quinoa. They might say like quinoa or something like that, right? And even English people, speaking people, might not know how to spell or spell or say how to pronounce quinoa, right? So that's again another reason why spirits don't normally use foreign language to the medium. There is phenomena definitely manifest and presented, and he's saying we have numerous examples of this, but and spirits will probably use somebody who's more flexible, who has more tools in their toolbox, basically. That's why they're not really going to use somebody who can't read or write, because someone who read or write doesn't even know how to write one letter. Like the letter A is the same in English as the letter A in German, but if you don't even know how to write the letter A, it's much more difficult. Um, for example, a child learning how to write the letter A, like it might not even really look like an A. So they're saying that that is a mechanical or like a physical like obstruction or obstacle for a spirit to overcome. Like even how you hold a chopstick or a pencil in your hand can be very difficult if you've not learned how to do that.